Yay! I want to talk about, I guess what Stacy and I have done based on using some EAA. But before I do, I have I guess a kind of an announcement of sorts. You could read that. It came from Aaron Clevenson, and he's like one of the national coordinators, and he's like the guy who does most of it. And ultimately, the Lunar program, Lunar 2 program, Hydrogen Alpha, and Sunspotter, 3 out of the 4 originally had very little imaging, and now they're putting imaging everywhere. And so if you would choose to do any of those programs, you'll get a certificate, a pin, and on your certificate it would say, blah, 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 and there'd be an I for imaging. Ultimately, you know about Master Observer, Binocular Master Observer. Well, this is all going together to make a master imaging kind of thing. And I'm going to apologize if you look at my screen. This is the time of day that the sun pours in that window. So it's really bright. It's like bright. And then it's going to get really dark in about 20 minutes. Oh, well. So anyway, let me talk a little bit about what ASEM is doing. Whoops, one too many slides. That's the original plan. You know, that's what we were going to try to do. I proposed it. JT liked it. Stacy said, let's try it. And ultimately, we didn't want to spend a whole lot of money. We wanted to try to find out if it worked before we said, well, yeah, this is a good idea. And we tried to use anything that we could possibly lay our hands on that ASEM already had that really wasn't in use. We thought it would be a good idea to set up on the east side of the observatory, the roll-off roof one. The east side, because we thought that it would keep the glare of our television away from the observers. But it turns out, like last Friday night, though we didn't set up and do anything because the clouds were so bad, 3 other people had light pollution devices like ours. So it's like, you know, it's going to be a shared kind of an experience. We thought it would take 2 people to operate. Really, kind of, we got it to a point now where we think we can do it with 1. We wanted to see if it was going to work. It does, and we wanted to see if people like it, and they did. I would point out that this is a picture, an image, or whatever you want to call it, that I had last month, that I put up last month when I kind of proposed this kind of stuff. Over here on, can you see my mouse pointer if I'm doing this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, definitely you can see it now. This would be like the Club C14. And why did we use the Club C14? Because it was available and nobody was going to use it, and it was already set up. And then we wanted to put a camera on it, but because the C14 has such a long focal length, it was going to have to be something that had a pretty good size sensor. And so ASEM has a T1, a Canon T1 that's been modified, and we thought, hey, let's use that. But even so, the field of view is going to be teeny tiny. So I wanted to put a focal reducer on it, and we wanted to try to use as much 2-inch eyepiece kind of things as we could to minimize any kind of vignetting we're going to get. We still get some vignetting. Ultimately, when I thought about putting this together, we thought ASEM's got a laptop, it's out there, and we could run those kind of pieces of software on it to do certain kinds of jobs. ASCOM to tie everything together and get it to run. SharpCap we thought we'd use because it does a good job of live stacking. I picked Canon EOS Utilities to be a sequencer for the camera, not because it's good, but because it works and it was there and it was free and we didn't have to buy anything. One of the advantages that it does have is it could write to a folder, the images to a folder, and then SharpCap could be configured to watch that folder. So anytime an image hit it, it would go ahead and stack it. Wanted to use maybe Stellarium to be able to go from object to object to object, and needed to do plate solving. And I'd heard good things about the ASTAP. It's an astronomy stacking program that plate solves. So that's pretty cool. There were some assumptions that I put up here that I can't read because all my pictures are over here, you guys. But we were going to assume that the C14 go-tos were going to work. Not so true. We wanted to find out if the C14 was going to focus with all that equipment. And I've got another slide, the next one, to show you what it took to do it. But yeah, I can truthfully say it focuses. I'll also say coma's a killer, but it focuses. We thought 2-person teams. We thought, you know, somebody was going to be inside the observatory making all this stuff work, running all the software down here. And we thought the other person would be outside kind of pointing stuff out on the TV screen. Ultimately, I think we can probably do it with 1 the way we've got it modified now. And I guess that pretty much explains what was going on inside. Now, let me talk a little bit about this here, just in case anybody ever wants to try to do this. I don't want to say it was impossible, but it was an adventure. I'll start by showing you a couple of pictures that I stole off the internet. I mean, I could have taken them into real stuff, I didn't. So let's pretend that this is the Canon camera, okay? And with Canon cameras particularly, the sensor is like buried really deep down in it. Not all Canons, but a whole lot of them up on this side of the camera have like a little marker that shows you where the sensor is, okay? And we needed to be able to hook the camera up to the C14. And so we needed like a T adapter that would go between the camera and the nose piece. And on one side, it had to have the right kind of, I can't call them threads, but you know, an EOS adapter, okay? And so we had the camera and the EOS adapter, and we had this guy, and somewhere in here we wanted to put a focal reducer. And anytime I'd used a focal reducer before, the focal reducer would always go on a camera back here that had a sensor that was really, really close up in here. Well, the problem was that the sensor's back in here. I was used to writing and putting the focal reducer up here, but it turns out that it didn't work. And the reason why it didn't work is I started looking at the literature on the that we're using down here, is that the working distance was supposed to be about 53 millimeters. And 53 millimeters from this line right here puts it right about there, okay? It has to be really, really, really close to the sensor to make it work. And so I said, okay, well, get rid of the nose piece. So we dumped the nose piece. That's not a big deal missing that, because this guy's got a 2-inch barrel. So this guy would fit right into the focuser, no problem. But the problem is getting this guy mated up, because this guy's got whatever the threads are for a 2-inch, you know, filter size, M42 maybe? I'm not sure what those are. Well, this guy duplicated over here doesn't have those threads. This guy is close, but it's no cookie. This guy doesn't fit into there. So I asked myself, what in the hell could I do? And it took me a while to figure this out. If you look at this guy right here, you'll notice there's just a little hole right there, and there's a hole probably down here behind your picture somewhere. The sneaky thing about those holes is there are grub screws in there, and the purpose of the grub screws is to loosen so that inner ring can rotate. So if you mate your camera, a T2 camera, not camera, T2 lens onto that guy, you can rotate it around so you can get your numbers to pop up wherever you want as you rotate it around the barrel. Does that make sense once on the camera? Now, that if you took that ring out, you could stick this guy into that ring and you could tighten those grub screws down. It may be the only one in the world that has that solution. It's not something I think a normal, sane person would try to do, but it works, okay? Having said that, we then go to here. This is what we're doing now instead. Big change. Over here, originally, we had all this stuff talking to the laptop. But Stacy suggested, hey, Steve, you and I both have these ASAR Pros. Let's go use those instead. And you might ask yourself, well, why would we want to use one of those guys? Well, if you look over here, these are the reasons. It's a one-stop solution. It does everything. It controls the camera, controls the mount. It's got a database, so you can go say, oh, let's go see M57. Oh, let's go see M51. Oh, let's go see M8. Okay? If you want to, you can hook Sky Safari up. It'll talk to Sky Safari. You can click on Sky Safari and say go to, and it will. It'll plate south. There's a new option in the latest firmware where you literally, not firmware, software, where you literally can click on the screen and say center here, and you can get it to center it. You can do dark, flat, bias corrections. It stacks it live. You can play with the histogram. Only bad thing about the histogram playing is that you can't play with the gray level. You can only do the black point and the white point, but still it makes stuff looks good on the screen. And then if you want, you can say after you're done, you can save the images. And the advantage of saving your images is that later in the night, if somebody comes by and say, oh, well, here's something that looks like it that we did earlier, pull it up and you can show it. And it was really kind of a cute kind of deal. One other advantage of doing the ASIR Pro can create its own hotspot. And since it's a hotspot, you can actually take the laptop that we use to talk to it. You can take this guy outside and you can deal with it outside. And that's what makes it really, really nice. A problem that we easily solved was that the ASIR Pro, the software has to run either under Android or under iOS. And we're Windows people, Stacy and I both are. And we wanted to be able to control this with Windows. And one of the reasons we wanted to control it with Windows is we wanted to be able to run an HDMI cable out to a TV. My cell phone does not have that ability, you know. And so how did we do that? Well, there is a program that's called BlueStacks, and it's an Android emulator. We run it, and then we run the ASI Air app on it, and then it communicates and it does everything. Wire-wise, we only have 4 connections. It's not hard to set up at all. It's really easy to go. So this is how we're doing it. And actually, it's working pretty well. The current workflow, we set everything up, and that includes hooking up all the wires, 4 wires. That takes maybe 2 minutes. If we're good, we'll try to capture darks and sky flats. But the truth is, if things haven't changed since the past week, that's good to go. We don't take the camera off. We always leave the camera on the C14. So, you know, the need for the flats is no big deal. We do a rough focus kind of right at the beginning, only because if we don't have good enough focus, we can't do plate salves later, because you need a plate salve to do the polar alignment. The polar alignment routine in the Pro, really good, takes less than 5 minutes if I'm doing it on my own with my own equipment. Since the C14 is already on up here, it's already polar aligned. We don't have to do that step when we're doing it as Friday night open houses. We'll then tell it to go to a bright star. And when we're kind of near the bright star, and I say near, we don't have to be on it, you do a plate salve and your sky aligned. And at that point, you can go do the good focus with the Batnoff mask, the Hartman mask, or whatever you want to do that way. We'll pick an object from the database. There's an auto center feature that you can turn on in the ASI Air. And with it turned on, you can pick the object and say, go to it. And it'll go to where it thinks it is. It'll take a picture, it'll plate salve, it'll say, oh, not quite yet. And it'll try again, and it'll salve. And the truth is, between the time you pick it and by the time it finally is auto-centered, it's generally no more than 2 minutes. And where you may think 2 minutes is a long time, I will tell you that if you've ever been in the observatory and watched Ed do it with the hand controller, it takes Ed longer than 2 minutes to get the object centered up. So it's really, really faster than doing it manually or with a person. We live stack it with the calibrations turned on, and as it's stacking and pulling in these pictures, we'll adjust, or Stacy will adjust the black and the white points of the pictures, and it brings them in, and it makes it look really, really, really well. Generally, exposure is going to be somewhere between 15 seconds and, I'll say 30 seconds, though at times we've picked it up to a minute just to see what it's going to do. The C14 tracks well enough that star trailing compared to the coma is no big deal. You can, if you want, download the final stacked image. There's a button on the screen you click, it'll go ahead and save it. But as you're doing the live stacking, it saves the individual frames, you know, just automatically. They're there. And it'll save the frames as both JPEGs and as FITs, which is a good deal. And then for the repeat for the next object, that's going to be this. And, you know, here's where the loop is, and it just keeps on and going and going. And it's fun. I don't know how else to describe it. In the beginning, we thought it was going to be really, really fiddly and picky. It isn't. It really is, I don't want to say foolproof, but it comes pretty close, considering that Stacy and I are the fools that are out there. Here's an image, and here I think you can see some of the coma that's going on over in here. What are the problems with the C14? Like I said, coma's a big one. That probably is because of the focal reducer. I don't necessarily know that we're going to try to make it any better. I mean, I think it's good enough for the public can see what's going on. The focal reducer is a 0.5x focal reducer. And the way that it's spaced out, we're getting about 0.47x. So it's pretty close to where it's supposed to be. Focusing the T1 is a bit of an adventure. There's a live view in there somewhere, but I can't find it. Ed says it's in there buried under one of the menus. The Canons that I have, all you got to do is hit a button. Live view pops up. It would be great if it did that. The problem is to be able to deal with the T1 and be able to see what's going on, you have to look at the LCD screen, and obviously with the telescope pointed up, the LCD screen is pointed down, and so you got to crawl on your hands and knees to see anything. You can't look in the viewfinder because it's got the same kind of problem. And the real sad thing is with both Stacy and my stuff, if you try to run the ASI Air app, which is not the Air itself, it's the program that talks to it. If you try to run that in the emulator, anytime you click on it and to get into the focus, it crashes the app. So it's like, well, darn. But we can't complain because we're probably not really supposed to be running it in an emulator in the first place. The C14 has some switches that have to be set. When you turn it on, it does a slew to, I'll say, North Celestial Pole kind of thing, and it'll stop over there and set the switches. You got to remember to do that. And then you also have to remember to load the last good alignment. And the last good alignment was the last time you're going to use it. One time we didn't try to load the last good alignment, and go-tos were like nuclear. I mean, it's like 40 or 50 degrees away from when they're supposed to be until I remembered that we had to do that. We haven't done it yet, but if we get around to it when the moon comes back up or when the planets come around in a couple of months, we are going to have limited illumination just because our field of view is not all that small. That's going to be a problem. And then one thing that is a real sneaker is the autohistogram. It works in the sense that if you've taken a massively underexposed image and the ADU is something like, oh, pick some ridiculous number, 150, it'll try to stretch that out and make a picture, and you might be able to see something there. But the problem is if you try to plate style with it, there's not enough information in it to get the job done. So it's probably a good idea a lot to keep the autohistogram off while you're getting some stuff adjusted. And then once you're centered on the object, then go ahead and deal with it. But, you know, we're working through the problems. The good news, obviously, is that it does work. You know, it is a positive. I think the best thing I could truthfully say is we saw 4 or 5 galaxies that Friday night. I guess that was 2 weeks ago at this point. It was a full moon night. I think Dan said it was also so cloudy at his house he could barely see the sky. So we were shooting through full moonlight on clouds, and we were still picking up galaxies. JT had an 11-inch Dob there, and he was resigning himself that night to just doing like double stars. So galaxies are possible, so that I consider good news. It can go deep. I mean, deep is the easiest way to describe it, even with a 15-second exposure. And I will ask Dan, hey, Dan, did you know about this? There's a 15.3 magnitude galaxy in that same field of view. We had the picture. And Stacy said, what's that fuzzy thing? And I got out got out Sky Safari and looked. And it surprised us because we've looked, you know, so many times at M57. And that was like the first time we'd ever noticed it. I will point out that you can see the central star, okay? It moves between the targets quickly, fast setup, particularly if you're doing it on the C14, because, I mean, what's to carry in? I mean, the only thing to carry in, now admittedly, this is ours, or, you know, this is what you carry in, you know. And I 3D printed a little holder for Lowe's Mandy bar on the C14. It just clamps right on in there. And then we are getting a lot of good comments from the public, how they really, really, really like it. And so far, no little kids have not been able to see an image on the screen. Obviously, I'll let you read that, but it's wonderful. You don't have the air. There is something that's called ASI Studio. And if you've got a ZWO camera, you can download it, and it will do that same live stacking that we're getting in the air as part of it. And that's a free program. It also has a FITS viewer. And if you look at the documentation, a lot of times they won't mention a FITS viewer. The version that you would download now, I think, was a late May version, and they've added that. Anything else? Oh, yeah. Whatever it is, come on, help the people at the park. I'm done. Hey, do you like the picture behind me? That was from a webcam. I spent the summer, I can't get my head out of the way. I spent a summer right down there once. You share? Cancel. Stop share. I done.
Thanks, Steve.
Hi, John.
John Bury. John Bury can't hear you.
He's muted.
I'll fix that. How's that?
That's
Better?
unusual for
That's better.
John.
I just thought I'd drop in and start listening to your jargon. I don't do photography. I know nothing about it. don't have any equipment, and I thought maybe it's time to start getting interested. And it looked like a good place to start, just listening.
You missed Steve's thing though, unfortunately.
No, he was there.
Oh, you were here, John? Oh, sorry.
When I turned off sharing, first person I saw was John. I said, yeah, John.
Yeah, I got tangled up with some Venetian blinds rebuilding when I got in here late. Sorry about that, but I'm here now and I'm listening.
Anybody need to know anything from me? Or I'll mute.
Hey, Steve, it's funny you mentioned that Galaxy in M57.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a T-point last night, and I thought, okay, well, after I'm done, I'm just going to swing over to M57 and take a few shots. And I'll be darned if it was the first time I ever saw that Galaxy. I didn't even know it was there before.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, I got a question. This is so is there digital zoom kind of features for this live stacking software?
Yeah, can you see my fingers?
Thank you, Dave.
That's the Zoom.
Like that?
I'm serious. In that, Stacy's really, really good at that. He's got, of course, this is his camera at home. His camera at home might be something like 4,000 by 3,000 pixels. Okay, so he'll pull up an object and then he'll say, oh, I want that one over there. So he'll zoom the screen either with the pull down zoom or just, touch screen, that kind of thing. And that's one of the advantages of using a high pixel kind of camera. If you were to use like a Revolution Imager that's like 720 by 488, this is your zoom.
Yeah. So I'm just sure that somebody at Friday night's gonna say, oh, can I get a little closer look at that crater or that feature of whatever?
Well, see, I will be honest with you, with the DSLR, maybe a little bit, only because I think that the T1i, the width of the width of the picture is something like 3,100 pixels. So there should be some zoomable possibility.
Yeah. And then it'll pixelate at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Steve, you say with that C14 and a focal reducer, you say you're getting too wide of a field of view to do lunar work?
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is that the moon will just about fill the frame. Okay, here's the moon. You cut out the top of the moon a little bit, you cut out the bottom. Well, I want to point on my screen and just not doing the job. You can do the full moon, you're going to get the full moon. But
Yeah.
That you got to zoom in to be able to see individual craters, and there's not really. It's not really slow enough to do that.
All right, because it's just so unusual to hear a C14 could get a 30 arc minute field of view.
Yeah.
I'm used to it being like 30 arc seconds is the widest field of view you can get out of something like that.
Yeah, but see, we're cheating here, and we're not using an eyepiece. We're using a camera.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just the sensor size. I guess, Dan, the sensor size on a DSLR is so much significantly larger than your typical ZWO camera.
Oh, yeah, much larger. And I think that DSLR has much larger pixels, larger pixel sizes too.
Okay.
And so that's kind of that made the most sense to use, where they might eventually go out and buy something, but that camera is really good for that kind of thing on a C14.
Okay. That makes sense, because I was thinking, wouldn't they want to use a refractor, one of those little short focus refractors for this?
Oh, certainly.
But then as soon as we started talking about this, I got to thinking, I've got a little lunt that's 700 millimeters, and on my Canon, the moon is like 1/8 the frame. So yeah. I get that now why DSLRs do that. Okay.
Is a good general rule, and general rules are made to be broken, but if you take the sensor's diagonal distance, okay, and you use that camera on a particular optical tube, you'll get the same kind of feel that you would get if you had an eyepiece that had that distance, okay? A 1/3 of an inch sensor is about an 8 millimeter distance, Okay, and so if you take a camera with a third of an inch sensor and you stick it on an optical tube, you'd get the same view as you would with an 8mm eyepiece. So you take that third of an inch sensor and you put it on the C14. You don't look at a whole lot of stuff on that C14 with an 8mm eyepiece.
Okay. Okay.
And I guess I'll add, and that's why it's so important to try to match the sensor size to the optical tube you're putting it on. Otherwise, you can end up with a field of view that's small, as in tiny, or as in maybe even so tiny that it may be possible or not possible to even plate self.
Okay, so this goes to the original design purpose of things like the ZWO cameras, which was surveillance, and those cameras always had a very small lens on the front, which is what gave them such a wide field of view. Okay.
And at the same time, that's also kind of why, if you look at the ZWO cameras, they'll say, well, this is a planetary camera. Why is it a planetary camera? Because it's got a third of an inch sensor. When you stick on an optical tube, you get more magnification.
Gotcha. Yeah, sure. So I still needed a 3x focal extender with my C8 in order to get any kind of image size on Mars 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, Mars is teeny. I will tell you that and that's Jim Rowe, has plans for the 32-inch. It's coming online pretty quickly, and he would like to do plate solving with it to help get target centered. And he's going to try to do that with the finder scope that I suggested he gets, which was an ETX 80, and he's going to try to put the club's ancient.
S-Big, huh?
Come on, Super Sky Auto Guider.
Oh, that's a SIG Orion.
Yeah, the Orion thing, and he says it's working. He's got it working.
I wouldn't doubt it. He's a farm boy, man. He can get the space shuttle running with duct tape and WD-40.
Starship auto guiders work pretty well. I don't see why you got a problem with it. The drivers are still supported, and as long as your guider's still working.
Okay. Jack, you want to get your stuff up and running?
That sounds good. I've got good news and bad news. The good news is my video camera is not working, but I believe that I'll be able to present. So let me try to present thing. Where's my button? Well, I thought I had a button that was nice and easy. Oh, maybe it's the speaker view. Share screen. There we go. Okay, so you guys see that?
Yes. We're not seeing all of it. Or at least I don't think we are.
I should see what you're seeing. I don't. Do you see a picture of me and my wife?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I look like. So we'll get rid of that. Okay. So you see that whole screen though, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me hit my PowerPoint. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you're coming in fine.
Oh. Do you still see? No. Stop sharing screen. Okay. Try that again. Okay. Do you see that International Space Station transits?
Yes.
All right. Now I can get going. So we're going to talk today about transits. A little bit about myself. I've been a backyard astronomer since I was a kid. My dad would point out various constellations in the sky and point out double stars and the like. And I got into astrophotography when I was when Halley's Comet came around, but the effort and compared to the result kind of turned me off. At the time, I had a manually guided with film pictures and an overloaded teeny heavy camera, and results were okay, but not amazing. So fast forward a few years, and Bill Newbert gave me a little motivational speech and got me hooked again. With regards to transits of the space station, I gave a talk on them before, but I have picked up a bit of experience since then. Next slide. Okay. All right, we've all been there. Terrible weather for days and days. Finally, the weather clears, and lo and behold, a huge bright moon ruins your astronomical viewing or astrophotography. Conversely, the weather will be good during the day, but rotten at night. Well, I'm here to offer something a little different, but astronomically interesting, and I'm sure it will impress your friends and baffle your enemies for your money back. So this is a little kind of sped up version of showing the space station going over the sky next to the moon. But for background, I suspect many of you have been to the NASA website that shows the International Space Station, or ISS, going over. It's very nice to see, and the average Joe can appreciate it also. There are also apps to tell you when it will go over, such as the NASA app or Stellarium, or pick your favorite. And there's websites as well. So I'm sure you all know what a transit is. That's when an object goes in front of another one. That's my version of it. This little animated thing illustrates the space station going in front of the moon to an observer standing on the Earth. Okay, he seems to be floating and the scale is all wrong, but you get the idea. Point a telescope, maybe even binoculars at the moon. It's not too hard to find. You don't even need tracking, and you can witness this awesome event. Obviously, you have to be at the right place at the right time. If only there was a way to calculate this. Well, there's an app for that. Unfortunately, the one that I have found does not work for iPhone, but don't panic just yet. There's a website that will work, as well as you could always buy an Android tablet for $30 at Micro Center. The app I'm talking about is ISS Transit Prediction Free Android. And so you could get a really cool picture of the space station in front of the moon. I don't know if the average Joe could get pictures like what they're showing, but this app also tracks what angle and what direction the space station will come from. And if that wasn't enough, it also shows when the space station will transit planets. I have yet to capture one of those, but that is one of my bucket list things. So running the app is straightforward. It's got 4 buttons. So this is kind of close to the PhD, push here dummy. So you enter your location. That's a one-time top button. You tell it what location, St. Louis or whatever. And then you enter the space station trajectory information, the 2-line elements, and all you do is tap the second button and it downloads it from the internet, which is pretty cool. You're doing some serious calculation here, so once you click that, on my tablet, it takes about 12 minutes to do the calculation. That's the 3rd button. If the screensaver kicks in, don't panic. It's still thinking. Go get a cup of coffee or take a walk while waiting. You probably want your battery to be charged. It's not like it's rocket science. Oh yeah, it kind of is. So when it completes, the 4th button becomes ungrade, and you can click on that. I don't know if you can see my cursor. That's that bottom one that says View Prediction. So here's some sample output. This particular one, there's a satellite view and there's a text view on this app. The satellite view shows where around you will the tracks be occurring. And so you can see there's a Mars transit here, a moon transit, a moon that's sunlit transit, and so forth. So if you pull that up, you can kind of see, well, is this the kind of place that I want to go to, or is it pretty far away, or whatever? If you click on the, you can pinch in and zoom, so you don't have to say, well, that's great, Jack, but I don't know where that's at. That could be in, you know, some secure military facility or something like that. But you can actually pinch in and zoom to see more or less of the surrounding map. The center line is blue, the outside edges are red. And if you can hear my cat, he wants to get involved in the presentation. So here are some details that I found useful when you click on the text one, and also easier to email. Like you might email it to your phone so you know all the details. You don't need to really know the map once you know where you want to end up. And you can scroll when the next, to sit through and see when the next one will be, and look at the latitude, longitude, and all that jazz. If you want to get back to the where you were, hit the little return button, sideways U with an arrow, whatever you call that, on your Android, and you're back to the other screen. So if you don't have an Android device, you can still go to the web. There's a website, and I'll give that to you. I think it was in the email that Dan sent out, but it's similar to the app, and basically you just punch in your latitude, longitude, and you're off to the races. You can also hit the auto detect button, and if you're on a phone or tablet, it'll look at where you're at and pull that all through. When you crank that guy, and it takes a little while too, even on their fancy computers, but it's not minute, you know, it's probably less than half a minute every time. But on the next screen, after you select all you want to do, it will give you the the distance of the center line. I don't know if you guys can read any of that text, but right here it says on the top one, center line distance 19 kilometers. So that one's not too terribly far away. Information like that gives you a feel. The other interesting thing is the ISS angular size. So here, this is the angular size of 28.98 degrees, or sorry, seconds. So yeah, 28 degrees, that'd be a big space station. So 28 seconds is not huge, but if you had one that had 64 seconds, like this guy at the bottom, that's a little bit bigger. So you can pick and choose. You'll notice they have different number of stars for different number of sightings. So a really good, nice close space station, meaning it was closer overhead. You're not looking through as much atmosphere. Might be a little bit better space station viewing. Now, you'll notice that on the top one and the bottom one, you see that the track is next to the moon. That's saying that's a near miss. So if you click on show on map, you can see where you would have to go to have the space station go right through the moon. So in this case, I had 2 misses and 1 hit that the space station will go right over my house, and I can see the space station in front of the sun, in this case, a solar transit. It shows on the top one that the space station is lit. In other words, it's white, little white arrow. And then the bottom one, the space station is not lit, it's gray. So that affects your viewing more noticeable than when you're out looking at it at nighttime. These are daytime transits. I think that's, so right. So once you click on show on map, you can see where the locations are, where some transits will be occurring, and the path and all that jazz. So you can choose, okay, yeah, that's not that far, or that's near my aunt's house. I'll go over there and set up and take some pictures or whatever. Likewise, you can do the same and plan your vacation. You're going to be going down to Gulf Shores for a while, and you get bored of the beach, so you've got to figure out something to do with your camera. So go ahead and watch a transit. Might as well. You got some spare time. So my first video was shot on a tripod, and you can kind of tell, but I think there isn't a ton lost by doing it this way. And the setup is lighter and easier. Not everybody has tons of equipment, tracking equipment, and so forth. So just having a camera on a tripod is pretty good. I poke around a lot on Google Maps once I have the coordinates, but that's just me. Obviously, you have to be careful about trespassing, but oftentimes the path will cross a park or a public area. You might also want to look at, where the trees are and things like that. If it's a big high tree line, that might be a factor as well. I always like to pick a couple of spots that are pretty close to each other in case of issues. So even on the same track, okay, I could go to this service road over here, or I could go to this Walmart parking lot. And maybe I'll go try for this service road first, but if somebody yells at me, I'll go to the Walmart. Once you get set up, take a practice video. Some cameras auto-expose based on a part of the screen, so being familiar beforehand is important. I recommend the first transit you take could be a video. I'll show you something that I did with stills, but your chances of catching it are much better with video because it happens so fast. Don't be surprised if a person is curious about it, wants to see. Obviously, you have to balance public outreach with time available. And speaking of time, use a reliable source of time. There are cell phone apps that show the seconds. In the case of mine, it seemed right on the money when it went, so within a second. The time is local time, and I'm positive that they allow for daylight savings time as well. So, but do allow yourself time. It always takes longer to set up than you think, and I have definitely gone there, set up, and missed the space station transit, and they don't come back around. Well, they do eventually, but not right away. All right, so I hyped it up so much, but you have to realize that the space station is really fast. It crosses the moon in less than a second. The space station is very far away, so it looks like a bird going across the moon. I'll show you a sample video as soon as I get this guy. Here we go. You see a YouTube video screen kind of, oops, jiggling around. Put it in full screen mode. All right, you see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
All right, great. There's probably some road noise you'll hear. And I'm gonna call out 10 seconds. And it's gonna come from the top right. Watch over here. Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Bottom right. Let me back up. So watching, as you can see, I had no tracking, but watch right around here. You see it?
Blinked.
Yeah.
Take some extra footage.
So, let's see if I can get a still.
Yeah, holding your eyes open without blinking, your eyes start to get real itchy, and then all of a sudden you blink and bang, you just missed it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can catch it and pause it, but
yeah.
You should be able to slow the YouTube video down if you hit the YouTube gear.
That's true. 10 seconds. Okay, here's the 10-second mark. That's a good question. Let's see if I can, yeah, playback speed. We'll go half. So watch coming this way. You see it?
No.
And a lot of it depends on the device. So, but
Yeah, watch
yeah,
time, Mark.
it's teeny and it's fast.
Yeah, it goes very fast. Yeah.
Let me show you. Now that's that one. I got another. Now this one is a little bit bigger screen size. And this is slow motion, so I don't even have to slow it down. I recorded it in slow motion. This is at Brummelseek.
Well, if you slow down a slow motion video, it's even slower, right?
That's right. This will be coming from the top right. Here we go.
There it is.
Did anybody catch it that time?
That one. Yeah.
So, oh yeah, we don't need to see that.
Yeah.
So suffice it to say, it's very fast. It's very tiny. Oh yeah, great. Cool. Start off in the middle.
Hi there. I've had a lot of people ask me how I wash my hair and face, and I
Yeah,
thought
no, we don't need to hear about washing your hair in space. Okay. Okay. So anyway, on the second video, I had tracking. I had the camera shoot in slow motion, so it was a little bit easier to see. You know, I think it improved it, but I was impressed that you could capture it all with a regular point and shoot camera and a tripod. So, you know, and you can do post-processing too if you have some video editing software. Then comes solar transits. Well, first of all, standard disclaimer, do not point a telescope at the sun without a filter. The same methods apply as you would with a lunar transit. But, you know, a lot of people might have solar filters laying around, obviously covered up with plastic, but collecting dust, so to speak, from the last eclipse, and, you know, want to make some use of it. And it's basically the same drill. So in my case, I not only did a solar transit, but I decided to do rapid fire individual pictures. My camera that I have has the ability to, you know, in rapid fire mode, get pretty quick through the number of shots through there. So here's the results. The top one I kind of it's a tiny little dot, I'm sure, on Zoom, but you can see where the limb of the sun is and kind of the progression as it goes through. The bottom ones I enlarged, so you can see a little bit of detail. You can tell that there's solar panels. You can tell there's a middle part and there's other solar panels.
See that on the upper row? You can see that in the upper row.
Yeah, and you could kind of make it out. I didn't know how much zoom would be a factor there. But, you know, obviously, if we got the C14 on it just right, actually, they did last time on that. When I took that last moon video, they did do the C14, and I don't have that picture on this computer. But
yeah, I have that picture. That was the picture Rick and I got out there at the same time.
And is that the same Rick from McDonald Planetarium?
No, that's
Okay.
at McDonald Planetarium.
Pardon me?
That's Stephen Hummel.
Oh, Stephen. Okay, not even close. All right, sorry. But anyway, yeah. So Rick had gotten that shot, and it was just amazing. Much better quality than I've gotten in any of my shots. But the challenge he had was we didn't have the focal reducer, and so he was guessing on what part of the moon it would hit. So you have to, you know, kind of do a little bit of extra searching, extra digging to see where that's going to be, and then a little bit of hoping. But I was pretty impressed that I was able to get 4 shots off. I preceded the transit by a second or two, and then just pressed and held the shutter. I thought I'd have more mirror flap than it did, so I was pretty happy with what I got out of this. Would you be able to see the SpaceX Dragon attached to the space station? I'm going to say no. But if they just undocked and they're, you know, heading home, you might be able to see bang, bang, Space Station Dragon, one after the other, and just see 2 dots, you know, and one of the dots looks like an H. And so, I don't know, that's kind of cool to know that there's, you know, people in both of those. And, you know, kind of a neat way to be involved in the space program. You can take all of your pictures that you took and make a composite. I've seen people do this. I used this very complex software called Microsoft Paint to come up with this, and it actually came out pretty good. I was pretty happy with that. So, upcoming transits. There are a few events coming up. Since the sun and the moon are close, we have a few days where there's both solar and lunar transits visible. Of course, that's not at the same place, otherwise it'd be an eclipse. But so on the 20th, there's a lunar day transit at 7:18. But of course, it's a new moon, so I think that might be a challenge to find. On the 20th, there's also a solar transit, and that one goes over Brummelseed. So that one might be a good one, weather permitting. I have not looked at the forecast. On the 22nd, there's a solar transit coming up. It's pretty far away, but it's a good, so you'd have to drive, I want to say like an hour away, but it's depending upon where you live, but it's a good angular size. So that might be something to consider. The 22nd, there's also a lunar. It's not so far. It's in kind of going over Eureka. It'll be a thin crescent moon, so you could be able to see that. And then the next one after that's the 26th. It's a lunar transit. It's not terribly far away, and it's a great angular size, 62 seconds of arc. So those are the ones that I know of. Now, I'm only calculating within 80 kilometers of St. Peter's, so using the web app, feel free to do your own calculation. I want to say there's a Jupiter transit coming up, so that might be kind of cool. But for what I calculated, the next one after this list is July 7th. So these are kind of hit and miss. You'll have a bunch and then nothing. But that's what's coming up.
Gary, we know when it's going to be cloudy for the next month.
Right.
Oh shit! Oh, I thought I was muted. Sorry about that.
Yeah. That's just it, I mean, what we had, like today, it was just beautiful blue skies, and I'm looking up going, what if there's any transits today? So it just helps you build the sickness of astronomy. So, that's basically it. There are settings you can customize. You can say, hey, I want to look, 100 miles away, but you might not drive a Prius, so you want to reduce that, that's fine. It only looks out so far, so there is a Java version available to run natively on the PC. I would not necessarily recommend that for the casual guy because there's a lot of setup to do with that.
Hey, if you could set up a webcam and a telescope to do astrophotography, Java applets probably shouldn't be that much of a problem, right?
There you go. Well, but I'm just saying that you have to create a file that has the two-line elements and all that jazz. That it's rocket science.
Yeah. Well, what's that scripting language everybody uses for their sequencing? Sequence Generator Pro, right?
There you go.
Yeah,
that's a good question. Could you use your computer to say, okay, start taking pictures at this point. I can't control my video to fire up. I guess I could stop sharing. Oh, you stopped me. Okay.
That's pretty nice.
I can't control my video to fire at a particular time. So, I don't know how you would do that. But
I would guess you would do it in SharpCap, and I would think you'd probably have to write a Python script to make it happen.
Yeah. But even if you're just kind of close with SharpCap, you could record for a good minute.
Yeah.
And unless you got really tight disk space. So yeah, that's a good point. So anyway, anybody have any questions? Any of the slides you want to go over again, or curiosity about any of that?
Yeah, whose image is that?
This is the one that Rick and I took that same night as his last video.
Oh,
He's in the C14.
why does that look better than the one I saw previously?
It aged.
What?
I said it aged. It's like wine.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe you could see the dragon on there. I don't know.
Well, at this resolution, it's I think is that at pointing at about 1 o'clock. That might be one of the Soyuzes. Maybe. I gotta look at man.
Yeah, it's a very good chance. That's a good point.
It's hard to. I can't. I'm trying to visualize. Yeah. I'd have
Well,
to look
but I
at the
think
image.
at any time they always had one for emergency exit. So
Yep.
there's a crater.
I do remember Rick saying that he noticed over time, as you get closer to the actual event, the information online changes, particularly if you were looking for the center line. So if you look a week and a half ahead and say, oh, I'm going to that Walmart parking lot,
Right.
on that actual day, it's a good idea to check, and you may end up in the church parking lot instead.
Yeah. That's
They're always boosting that. They're boosting the altitude. They're changing things. Two-line elements get more accurate. You're right. The closer you get, so. Whew.
So I seem to remember the challenge of getting, that was discussed about before with the C-14, was getting good focus. What's the best strategy for setting up your focus ahead of time with either the moon or the sun? It might be different. What do you do?
It's easy if the moon's out and you can focus on that. But without the moon, it's a challenge.
yeah. You kind of have to hope for sunspots if you're doing the solar one.
The limb of the sun should be good enough to get a good. If you can get a fairly sharp limb, you should be able to get a fairly sharp ISS.
And I maybe the question you're really kind of asking, Dave, is can you and by the way, I hope whoever dropped off, I hope they have a nice evening, and but I know they had to go. But maybe the question you're asking is, so what? I'm perfectly focused on the moon. Will I be focused on the space station?
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's I think you're fine. Is the bottom line. I don't think I would sweat that small stuff.
Well, there's really no way to focus on what you can't see yet, so you gotta pick it
Yeah,
up.
well, I think theoretically, I think one could say, okay, here's my perfect focus, and then I'll just go a half a twiffet towards me. But I think you're really sweating the small stuff there, because after a mile, and we're talking 1,000 miles,
Yeah.
it's not much of a difference between the focus of the moon and the focus of that space station, my opinion.
Right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
agree. And so the other question I had is, for using a DSLR, I was planning to put my camera in mirror up mode, so just keep the mirror open and avoid some jitter that way, and then set it to take as many pictures as fast as I could.
Yeah, that's the advantage of video, is your mirror's up. On my camera, I can't do mirror up without doing just a single exposure, which is dumb, but I know exactly what you're saying. You're right. If you could get that mirror flap down to nothing, that's a good thing.
Well, now that you mention it, I've got to check and make sure that works on my camera. It's a Nikon D7000. But
Mine's a Nikon, and I have that problem.
I may too. So I'll definitely have to check that out. It will do video, of course, so maybe I'll put it up there.
Any other questions? But yeah, I find it fascinating. I'm kind of a space travel geek on top of astronomy, so this is kind of a merge between the two. But if you look at it kind of like it's the hunt, that's kind of fun too.
Anyone thinking about maybe trying to catch the one that's coming up on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about it. I haven't looked at the app lately, but I thought a couple of days ago, I thought on Saturday afternoon it was more like about midday, 12:30 or p.m. or something.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's like Saturday morning.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got Saturday 7 something.
Okay, I must have been a different one I was looking at. Maybe later that was midday for solar.
Yeah, there's a lunar at 7:18, a solar at 7:18, both on the 20th, and then the next one's the 22nd. It's a solar at 13:47,
Ah,
and that's again based on my area, but I think we're in the same neighborhood, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to mention what the weather forecast says.
Yeah, you know.
thank you.
But you know, St. Louis weather, they are about 50-50 on tomorrow's forecast, let alone Saturday's.
Yeah.